Hey, what's up guys, it's Talon. Today I'm going to be talking about Varus builds. If you don't know who I am, I've been top 1 Varus a couple times, currently rank 4. So I feel like I understand the builds pretty well. So I'm just going to talk about the 3 main type of builds you want to go on Varus typically. So to just get right into it, the first build, which is the build I typically go, is often called Lethality, or it's like armor penetration build. This build is best when you want to poke people, and it's the most consistent because you don't actually have to get very close to people to deal a lot of damage. The reason for this is because this build is based around your abilities, whereas some other builds are based more around the stacks on Varus. And to explain what the stacks are, basically if you auto attack someone on Varus, you deal more damage to them after using an ability on them. So if you say auto attack someone once and then you use an ability, you're going to pop that stack and deal more magic damage to them. Now you can stack that up to 3 times by auto attacking more. You know, 3 auto attacks means 3 stacks. That's the max stacks you can get. If you ult someone, it also builds up stacks on them. So typically other builds might be based around auto attacking and ulting people to get stacks on them and then using your abilities to pop those stacks. But this build doesn't require that because you have a lot of AD and armor penetration in the build, which basically means your abilities are already going to deal a lot of damage without the magic damage. So what you'll start off with in this build is Manamune. You want to go longsword right away. Then after longsword you can go for the tier, and then the warhammer, and then finish the Manamune. After that you have 3 options. You have Cyrilda's Mortal Reminder and Youmuu's Ghostblade. Youmuu's is going to be best if you've not yet fought the first dragon, because Serrated Dirk, which is the item component that you're going to first build of Youmuu's, does more damage early on in the game. So if you haven't fought the first dragon and you have enough to buy Serrated Dirk along with your Manamune, then you want to do that. And that's going to be 3,700 gold is how much you'll need for both of those. So if you have 3,700 gold or more and you've not yet fought the first dragon, then you want to build this. But if you already lost or won the first dragon, it would be more valuable to typically go for Cyrilda's or Mortal Reminder. And the reason for this is because you do percentage-based armor pen with this build. And by the time you've already fought the first dragon, they're going to have around 60 armor or more even, which means that you're going to get more value from the percentage based, because you're going to have around 25% armor pen, which would be, if they have 60 armor, that's going to be the same as 15 flat pen, which is how much Youmuu's gives you. And then if they ever build more armor, or they just, you know, level up and get more armor, you're going to get more damage out of Cyrilda's / Mortal Reminder. That might not have made the most sense. If you want clarification, feel free to ask me in the comments. But just as a general rule of thumb, if you've not fought first dragon and you have enough, or if you have 1k gold or more after already finishing Manamune, go Youmuu's so you can get the value out of the Serrated Dirk early. And if you already lost the first dragon or won it, then go Cyrilda's / Mortal Reminder, because you're going to get more value in the mid game from those. Now, when do you want to build Cyrilda's versus Mortal Reminder? It's pretty simple. You build Cyrilda's if they don't have a ton of healing, and if they have a lot of healing, you go Mortal Reminder, because that gives you the Grievous Wounds passive. But if you just want a general thing, typically Cyrilda's is going to be valuable quite often, but also Youmuu's is going to help you snowball a game a bit harder. So it's kind of up to you. Then you'll go Ionian Boots into Stasis or Protobelt. And then third item, you're going to build Youmuu's if you built Cyrilda's earlier, and you're going to build Cyrilda's if you built Youmuu's earlier. Unless obviously you need Mortal Reminder, then you switch Mortal Reminder for whenever you would have had Cyrilda's. Again, if this doesn't make too much sense, just feel free to ask any questions in the comments. After that is your defensive item slot, so you either go Edge of Night or Guardian Angel. In this case, you go Guardian Angel if they have a lot of armor, or rather if they have a lot of attack damage and AD assassins. So stuff like Zed, Aurelia, stuff like that jumping onto you is when you'll want to go GA. And then Edge of Night is what you'll more often go. Just in any case where they don't just have a ton of AD assassins. And then lastly, you go either Duskblade or you go Serpent's Fang. You go Serpent's Fang if they have a lot of shielding, because you get that passive, you know, stopping their shielding as much. But you don't have as much armor penetration from this item, which is why you'll go Duskblade if they don't have a lot of shields, because it just gives you more damage overall. Then for the runes, you go Airy and Scorch, because those just make your poking the strongest in the early game. And this build is really about snowballing the early game, which is why these runes pair really nicely with it. Then third rune, you go Nullifying Orb typically, but you can go Bone Plating in certain matchups if you feel like it. And then also Hunter Titan if they have a lot of CC. But yeah, typically Nullifying Orb and then Mana Flow Band, because you get the most value from that since you're spamming your abilities a lot. And then for the spells, you'll go Exhaust and Flash. You could go Heal or Barrier if you want, but I just think Exhaust is the best. Alright, so the next build that you might want to go on Varus is Crit. And so this is typically best when you have a champion who's going to buff you in your support. So say you have a Lulu or like a Yumi, that's typically when you want to go this. Or when you just feel like you're going to be able to auto attack a lot without getting punished for it. Go into champions like Mundo, or just other champs that are very easy to auto attack and also cannot easily deal a ton of damage to you while you're auto attacking them. You'll want to go this build. And this is the build of one of the best Varus players, probably the best Varus player in NA, at least in solo queue, rest of the West. So typically he goes Blade of the Rune King, Infinity Edge, then you can go QSS with the Lifesteal Boots, then Bloodthirster, Phantom Dancer, and Mortal Reminder. And so the reason that this build is really good is because you have a lot of lifesteal, which makes it easier to auto attack for longer without getting killed. So obviously Blade of the Rune King gives you lifesteal. Infinity Edge just makes your crits do more damage, which is good. And then Bloodthirster, also, you know, lifesteal. You have the lifesteal boots as well. And then Phantom Dancer gives you that passive to make it harder to kill you. So basically all these items work well together to just make you very hard to kill while still being able to auto attack a lot, because Varus is not very good at auto attacking a lot because he doesn't have mobility or anything. So this build kind of makes up for those weaknesses. And then lastly, just like Mortal Reminder gives you good armor pen, but I would actually recommend changing this to Lord Domps now, because it gives you not only the armor penetration but also the crit. But you'll want to go Mortal Reminder if you need anti-healing, but if you don't need anti-healing, you can just go Lord Domps instead. And then the reason this build works well is because of Varus' passive. I'll just go read the passive to explain to you guys. That way, that can probably explain it better than me. So basically, gain 60% attack speed for 5 seconds on a champion kill or assist, and 30% on non-champion kills. So what this means is if you kill a minion, or a monster, or anything, you get 30% attack speed, which makes, again, your crits... It's the most value for crit, because your auto attacks deal the most damage on crit. And obviously, if you kill someone, you get 60% attack speed, which is an insane amount, is going to make you... So this is essentially really good for snowballing a fight. Once you get one kill in a fight, it's really easy to get more because your auto attack your auto attack speed is a lot. Additionally, with having just a lot of auto attack damage from crit. So that's about how the build goes. Typically, again, I would build that with like a Lulu or a Yumi, whereas with these other builds, they're better overall and more consistent. And then for the runes, you want to go Conqueror. You could go Lethal Tempo as well, kind of up to you. I like Conqueror. If you like Lethal Tempo, that's fine. Brutal makes your auto attacks deal more, which is good for your early laning and everything. Giant Slayer is also good if they have a lot of tanks, but typically Brutal I like. Now Hunter Titan, again, just like I was saying with this entire build with the lifesteal and being about survivability, Hunter Titan makes it so you can get close to people without getting CC'd for as long. So you'll typically want that if they have a decent amount of CC. But you could also go Nullifying Orb if you prefer that, and that makes sense. Bone Plating's fine too, but typically Hunter Titan is the best with this type of build. And then Nimbus Cloak, once again, it's about that survivability. If you use your heal, or you use your flash, or you use your exhaust or whatever, it makes it easier to run away or to catch people out. So it's just all about survivability, whether that's in movement, whether that's in tenacity, stopping CC, or that's lifesteal. Basically, it's all just about surviving so you can auto attack people for longer with this build. And then for the spells, you want to go heal or exhaust, depending on the game. Exhaust if they have like a Zed, a Fizz, an Aurelia. A lot of people are going to jump onto you. And heal if you want to play more for lane, because this is a really good spell for laning. And that's about it for the crit build. Lastly is AP. So this is the build that works best with your stacks, like I was talking about earlier. You auto attack, you get stacks, then you pop them by using abilities. That damage being dealt by popping those stacks is magic damage, which means that AP is going to increase that damage, whereas you don't increase that damage if you're building any type of AD build. So if you are confident that you can easily get close to people to auto attack them and apply stacks, then this build will be overall the most damage. And this build's also the best into tanks because your stacks are dealing percentage based damage based on people's max HP. So, or that's what your second ability does, and that damage is going to be increased by building magic damage. So this is best into tanks because you can really just melt a tank. If you get 3 stacks on them and then you use any ability on them, their health is going to disappear. So for the build specifically, you go Gnasher's Tooth because it gives you both AP and attack speed. Attack speed makes it easy to apply stacks. AP once again works well with those stacks, and then you have ability haste, so you can use more abilities to pop stacks more often. So really just everything does work really well together. And then additionally, your attacks deal bonus magic damage with this item, which, you know, you're going to be auto attacking a lot since you need to apply stacks to people. So just everything about Gnasher's Tooth works perfectly with AP Varus. After that, Riftmaker is good because it gives you survivability, which again, just like in the crit build, you're going to be closer and auto attacking people more, so you need some survivability. That gives you health, and it gives you, you know, the Omni Vamp, and you still have the ability haste and AP like you need in this build, so it just has again everything you really want. Then you can go Ionian Stasis, you could go QSS, you could go Proto Belt. Typically I would recommend Stasis, but if they have a lot of CC, then QSS would be quite nice. And if they have kind of no one that you're that scared of and you really just want to like catch people out, then Proto Belt is good for, you know, you can Proto Belt onto someone and then ult them. After that, Death Cap is going to just deal the most damage, so you're just going to want to go this. Your damage at this point, once you get 3 items, like once you finish your Death Cap, is going to be absolutely insane. Then Void Staff, because you get the magic penetration, which will obviously just make your damage significantly higher as well. And then Crystalline Reflector or Banshee's Veil is what you want to go last, because these are both good for the defense. If they have a lot of attack damage, AD, then you'll want to go Crystalline Reflector because you get that armor and you still again get the magic damage, which is obviously what this build is about. And then Banshee's Veil is good because you get magic resist, so if you're into a lot of magic assassins like a Cassidon or stuff like that, or Ari stuff, anything like that, you'll want to go Banshee's Veil instead. It also gives you the spell shield, which is pretty nice. Cosmic Drive is also something you could go if you wanted, but I personally wouldn't recommend that. But I'd just say typically this build. Then for the runes, Conqueror, for the same reason in the second build. Gathering Storm because it works really well with AP and helps your scaling, because this build is about scaling. It's not as strong in the early game, it's more about the late game damage. Then Nullifying Orb or Hunter Titan. It's the same reasoning as all the other ones, so I don't really need to explain that rune choice again. And lastly, Manifold Band because you're using abilities a lot. Again, you could go Nimbus Cloak if you feel like it, but personally I like the Manifold Band. And then you can go Exhaust or Heal along with Flash. Again, I like Exhaust more, so that's typically what I would go. So now I'm just gonna kind of talk about why I think what builds are the best, or why I think Lethality Build is the best. The reason I think this build is the best simply is because it's the most consistent and it's the strongest in lane. The reason it's the strongest in lane is because one, AD is going to be stronger than AP in lane, so that eliminates the first one, simply because you're not going to be dealing as much damage when you only have when you're building because in lane you're not going to be able to auto attack people as much and then get enough stacks on them to really deal significant damage with the magic damage, and you're going to be dealing much more AD early on in the game, even with this build. So that's why I would say these two are the best early game builds. But this one's better because it allows you to go these two runes, Airy and Scorch. Both these runes impact your early game damage much more than you do with the crit build, so that's just going to make overall your early game better. And then additionally, you can stay at further range with this build because you can just poke people with arrows and everything, because you don't have to get close to auto attack to deal damage like you do with the other two builds. So it's just more consistent, it's harder to get caught out, you can bait people in better, and the damage is just ridiculous. If you've watched like any of my Varus videos, I'm almost always playing this build and the damage is ridiculous. You can pretty much two-shot people at certain points in the game. That's overall why I think this is the best build. And then next I would say AP is the next best build because it's really good into tanks. It's a bit niche, I would say, but if you do see like multiple tanks on the enemy team, I'd recommend this build instead, because once you get to 2 or 3 items, you're just going to be shredding those tanks and they're not going to be able to do anything against you. And then lastly, this would be the third best build in my opinion, but there are players who make it work really well. So if this is kind of a build you prefer, I would still just say, you know, go for it, and I'm sure you could be very successful playing a build like this. And then I'm also just going to talk quickly about one other type of build if you really want to try this build. Basically, this build is kind of like a mix between the two, or between the kind of Lethality build and then the auto attacking build. And let me find this. So this Bork, and then lastly it's, what is it? I forget what the last item is now. I think it's, what is it? Let me check quick. So yeah, last is Cerilda's here. Okay, there you go. So this would be another build that you could potentially go. I'll just put boots here. And so this build is kind of like a mix between the two. You're gonna deal a decent amount of damage still with your arrows, but then you also have a lot of auto attack damage. Me personally, I don't like this build a ton, but I thought I might as well just throw it in there, show you guys, you know, another build if you like this type of a build instead. But yeah, overall, that's gonna do it for this video. It's just talking about the various builds. I might not have explained everything too well. If you have any questions, please, you know, let me know in the comments or anything. If you want more types of these videos, instead of me just posting gameplay and me instead of me talking about something more specific, then please like it, because you know that would make me kind of show me that you'd prefer to see a build like this or a video like this instead of just some gameplay. If you do prefer gameplay, just let me know in the comments as well. Again, if you have any questions about any of these builds, then just feel free to let me know. That's gonna be it for the video. I'll see you guys later.